And today I wanted to talk about a topic that a lot of solo founders and especially non-technical folks tend to have whenever they're starting to build a company. It's really the question of, should I find someone technical to actually build this app idea, or should I go to a dev agency and raise a whole lot of grant funding to essentially pay this person to build my idea? If you're new to the channel here, my name's Graham. I'm also a founder myself, and I've been through this whole process of building an app. This channel is showing my journey from 0 to 1 million annual recurring revenue, sharing my learnings along the way, and hopefully making your life a bit easier. So whenever you do have an app idea and you are non-technical like myself, you are faced with a conundrum, which is, do I try and find someone who can help me along this journey, i.e. let's call them a co-founder, or do I try and pay an agency? So to wind it back a little bit to the start of my journey, because I think this is probably going to be best explained with my personal story. Whenever I had the idea for the app, first of all, I was a student, so I didn't particularly have too many resources at the time as far as finance and capital to be able to pay a dev agency. But where I grew up in Northern Ireland, there was a lot of competitions available for startups. So that was like grants, investment from the government with like little 10 to 15k grants. What I actually did to start my journey off was I applied for a bunch of competitions and grant funding. And I think as my pitching ability got better, I ended up raising around about 50k, which then I was able to decide what I wanted to do with that money. Now, at the time, one of the people that provided me the funding advised me to go to a development agency, and the reason they gave was it was going to be pretty quick to launch with the dev agency. They're going to know what they're doing. So as a blind 20-year-old, of course, I was like, yep. I mean, these people are going to know a bit more than what I do at this stage. So I went with that. And after a couple of months of looking around, we found someone who ran a pretty small development shop to start building our solution. I remember probably about 2 months into the process, I started to realize that working with the dev agency, especially when you're at such an early stage, might perhaps not be the greatest idea. And let me explain why. So whenever you're super early stage, try and condense your MVP into something that's super small, solves the one main problem for the user, right? And again, being misadvised at the start, my MVP was super big, so it had like 3 different users. It was aiming to solve a ton of problems, and because I was not technical, the agency was going super deep into all these technical features. And after 3 or 4 months, we hadn't really made meaningful progress, and I'd almost went through all my spend for the dev agency, which was around 15 to 20k for building this app. And I think maybe one of the problems that arise when using a dev agency is if you're not super specific with your spec starting off, they will take your spec very, very literally, and they will go and actually build what you have described on paper. And when you are super early stage, you don't really know hypothetically what the product is actually going to be. So with dev agencies, whenever you do want to sit down and have feedback of the product and how you can be improved, and this can be pre-MVP stage, this can be post-MVP stage, once your users start giving you feedback on how the product can be improved. These dev agencies, obviously, to make a living, will be charging you per hour or a rate to add these features on. And what I've learned in my journey so far is that software is a continual evolution. There's no point when your product is finished, right? I'm sure all you guys are aware of that. So it gets super expensive whenever you are outsourcing that labor time to a development agency, right? What I've also observed is typically whenever you are looking to raise a seed round, which we did last year with Tiny Seed, who are awesome, by the way, one of the key criteria is that they will look for founder-led teams that have in-house technical capabilities, for the reasons that I mentioned there, in that, in my opinion at least, it can get super expensive to outsource these capabilities to someone that is an agency. Now, I am not anti-agency. I feel like agencies really have their position. Once you get to a bigger size of a company and you're just looking to outsource a pretty sure piece of work that will be a value add to your product. Whereas, in my opinion, there is so many uncertainties with a startup that, from my experience, things started to go good once I actually found a technical co-founder. Rewinding my story, I mentioned there that I had spent pretty much all my money in grant funding to get an app that was half complete. And through pure luck, I ended up meeting my co-founder. It was through LinkedIn. And then we actually started really dissecting the product and trying to agree on, right, what is our MVP? What is the first version that we're actually going to launch here? So Jamie, bless him, he went in and stripped back our entire product to its bare bones and identified really, what was the fundamental value add for golf clubs that our product gave. And within 3 months we had a product live. And what I would put that down to is just the amount of flipping time that I had and was able to spend with him. We would do 3 or 4 hour sessions where we went deep into the product, whereas I felt guilty because I knew I was spending money for each of those 3 to 4 hour sessions with a dev agency, and we could just get super deep and super precise into what we were building. And so the way I worked it to actually bring my co-founder on, I paid him a little bit per month because I was working on the app for 2 years at that point. I didn't want to bring him in as a co-founder straight away, so I paid him a little bit every month, just more so I could trust him. And then after that point, then I brought him on as an equity co-sharer of Handicaddie, and he's still my co-founder to date. So from my learning so far, I think there's a few things that you should consider. So I think first of all is your budget. That plays a massive part into it. If you don't have the financial capabilities right now, then going for a co-founder is potentially the way to go here. Second of all is the complexity of the product as well. If it's a really complex product, you're going to need someone to sit with you through these sessions. And if you are hiring an agency, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Finally as well, it's obviously worth considering your own happiness. Like, would you be happy enough to crack on and just sell this product by yourself, or would you want someone beside you who you can work with and go through all these inevitable pitfalls that you are going to face? So again, I'm not married to one opinion or the other. I feel like agencies do have their value, but in my opinion, it's at a specific point in the journey whenever you've de-risked things and you're just looking for certain pieces of work. If you guys enjoy this content, drop a little comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the agency versus co-founder argument. See you in the next one. Bye.